To our top story this morning, businesses and organisations around the world recovering from a crippling IT outage. A single content update bringing computer systems down in an unprecedented cyber crash.
Live to Lana Murphy at Melbourne Airport, who begins our coverage this morning. Lana, airports were sent into a frenzy. How are things looking today?
Good morning, guys. Well, they are certainly a lot calmer now than they were 12 hours ago, but there is still thousands of customers here that are affected. You can see it right next to me. There is a long line with hundreds of Jetstar customers who have already had their flights cancelled this morning and are trying their best to work out how they're going to get to their destination. There is obviously a massive backlog for the airlines here at Melbourne Airport to work through, particularly Jetstar, who was the most affected last night. They were forced to cancel up to 50 flights overnight, up until 2 o'clock in the morning. So as I say, a massive backlog for that airline to get through, and obviously working through the other schedules at other airports to get customers to their destination. Now, the biggest impact here was the check-in system. It stopped particular airlines, obviously Jetstar, some Qantas flights. Rex was unaffected, but it stopped them from being able to check in their customers. There was also a number of international flights that were impacted as well, but Melbourne Airport says this morning, for the most part, things are back in business and back as usual. But the advice is to contact your individual airline and to check your ticket and the information on your phone. Here are some customers from overnight.
We're devastated, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Are you from?
Make it through. Brisbane, yeah.
Are you from Brizzy? You're trying to get home?
Yeah,
yes.
home.
They're telling people to go home and I can't go home, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet.
As for the rest of Victoria, guys, well, we were told there was no critical infrastructure impacted last night. 000 calls were still able to be made and emergency services were able to be dispatched. Western Hospital were affected. They went back to the olden days of pen and paper to get through their customers and their patients in the hospitals there. Guys, hopefully everything today will run a lot smoother here at Melbourne Airport.
Absolutely, Lana. Thank you. Well, from New Delhi to London and New York to Singapore, millions around the world have been disrupted. Nine Europe correspondent Jessica Millward has more on the global impact.
Well, this IT outage has had an extraordinary impact right across the world, particularly at airports. 250,000 travellers impacted in the UK alone. Incredibly long queues being experienced as check-in systems went to manual operations. At many airports, people being handed handwritten boarding passes, passengers being checked off lists as they boarded the aircraft. This really couldn't have happened at a worse time in the UK. It is the start of the school holidays.
Sorry, my flight got cancelled, so no, it's completely...
It's been a disaster?
Yes.
We've gone through security, we've been waiting at the gate for hours and hours and hours, and it kept delaying, and suddenly one lady comes and says, sorry, we don't have a plane, we don't have a crew, could you please exit the airport?
2,000 flights in and out of the US have been cancelled. This extraordinary flight radar showing the airspace almost empty, with several major airlines choosing to ground their planes until the issue was resolved. One of the world's busiest airports, Singapore's Changi, experienced extremely long lines, as did airports right across Europe. Train services around the world also impacted. Computer systems in GPs went down across the UK, with patients being turned away in some cases. While in Paris, the Olympics accreditation and uniform delivery services were thrown into chaos 1 week out from the opening ceremony.
So I arrived earlier than expected. Flight arrived at 6 instead of 7, so the system wasn't open, and I'm now here and the system's still not open.
And as in the case in Australia, broadcasters were forced off the air here in the UK. Sky News viewers seeing this message, and at one stage, Whale Song was playing. Maybe an attempt to calm the nerves of some very stressed out people around the world today.
Okay, and we're joined now by Today Tech expert Trevor Long in studio. Trev, just explain to us, how did this all happen?
So 23,000 businesses around the world are subscribers to a system called CrowdStrike, and that software is meant to stop cyber attacks and outages, but they issued an update to the millions of computers that are within those businesses, and that update had a bug in it. So basically that brought those computers to a halt. They were unusable. So it's basically a software failure that was rolled out automatically to millions of computers. Now, CrowdStrike is a $74 billion company. Their CEO, George Kurtz, explain the outage this way.
The system was sent an update, and that update had a software bug in it and caused an issue with the Microsoft operating system.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and the thing is, Microsoft gets lumped into this. A lot of our talk has been a Microsoft outage. It's not Microsoft. This is CrowdStrike and their deep integration with Microsoft. So basically now this has got to roll out. There's got to be updates to computers. Small businesses need to actually physically attend to those computers. Big businesses have IT teams. This is still going to take most of the day to really resolve. And then the question is, you know, what's going to happen in the future? How likely is this from happening again? And also, what target does it put on just computers generally from a cyber perspective? Because from a cyber attack perspective, this just shows how exposed we are to one thing failing and bringing essentially the world to a halt.
Yeah, to its knees. Trev, thanks so much.
No
We'll check in with you in a little bit.
We're being warned it could be days until the effects of that tech outage are fixed.
We're joined now by cyber safety expert Susan McLean. Susan, thanks for your time this morning. What was your reaction to that massive disruption yesterday?
Well, it was quite a shock, the same as all people. And I was actually trying to get an insurance quote off Allianz Insurance, and I kept getting this really weird error message, which I thought was my fault, or there was something wrong, you know, with my internet. And then, of course, all the news feeds started to fill up, and I realised what was happening.
Susan, terrifying day yesterday, but just how vulnerable does it show we are?
Well, I think what it shows is our reliance on tech. Now, if you think about it, we know we rely on tech, but this showed, in particular, we know that about 85% of the world was impacted yesterday, and that is huge.
Okay, so what do you think happens now? How do we stop this from happening again?
Well, you'd like to hope that the company, plus others that are watching on, breathing a sigh of relief that it didn't happen to them, are looking at exactly what happened to try to work out, is there a way moving forward to mitigate this? And some of the things that I've seen experts write, far more intelligent than I am or knowledgeable when it comes to the back end of security, are things like not rolling these out in one foul swoop, doing it gently, with small increments at the time, and also testing it first. Make sure it works before you let it loose on the rest of the world.
Are you surprised by how, I guess, quickly they are resolving the issue?
Look, I think there's quickly. I think for some companies it has been rather quick. They've been able to follow the advice that was provided by CrowdStrike and get themselves back online very quickly. We also know that for some others, it's going to take perhaps up to a week to get every single one of their devices working again. And that's going to depend on the impact of the outage on that particular company or on a particular device.
And I guess when you hear, you know, hospitals, GPs yesterday were impacted, New South Wales Police was as well, pretty concerning, right?
It is. And, you know, the thing is, you know, there was hospital visits missed, operations were paused. You know, it really impacts us all, you know, in a whole way. It's not just a little bit. It doesn't matter what you're doing or how you use tech. You were impacted yesterday.
Does CrowdStrike recover from this? I guess a lot of people don't have any other option. A lot of us were linked up to it, right?
Well, that's right. And you're linked up by default if you're using the Microsoft products or you're using a company that uses them. You know, you don't have a say in that. I think what it shows is how reliant the world is on one place, and perhaps we might need to diversify, or the product is moved into, not held in one particular location. So if one part goes down or there's a glitch, 2/3 of the product still works.
Yep, diversifying, that is the key. Good on you, Susan. Lovely chatting with you. Thanks for your insights.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?